setting goals just makes me so anxious because when I don't achieve them, I become very sad or hard on myself for the fact that I didn't achieve the things that I wanted to achieve.
We set goals with the end in mind instead of the next step. Once again, just surrendering that with to the Lord and being able to dream with Him.
I should leave room for God to do what He wants whenever He wants. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Unfiltered Conversations. I am your host V, and I'm back with your fave, Erin.
Hi everyone.
Happy New Year, guys. What a year.
Girl, tell me about it.
And when I say what a year, I mean 2024. What a year. But I'm excited to have Erin here. We did an episode for her podcast. Also, we started together last year and we're starting together this year.
We gotta finish it strong, girl.
We always have to do things right.
If our first episode was with one another, it's only but right if we continue the self-spoken tradition at this point.
It is a tradition until kingdom come from now
Exactly.
on. But where do I don't even know where to begin, because our episode is almost like a continuation from your episode. We are touching on some things that we touched on yours, and we were speaking on your episode.
Oh girl, we spoke
so much, but we didn't have the time to say everything, so I did kind of incorporate some of the things that we didn't speak about. So I think my main heading for today was just about, I think yours was about what? Setting goals.
Yeah, it was about setting goals and then how to set New Year resolutions, but for God's results. So yeah.
So I named mine, and it might be a little bit tricky, but I said mine is setting intentions, not resolutions.
Oh.
Right?
Oh.
I love to play with words. If you don't know by now, I don't know where you've been, but
welcome.
Welcome. You might as well subscribe now.
Exactly.
But I thought about how, because I don't know if I mentioned this on your episode, but I said that last year was my actual first time setting goals, officially, and I didn't know how to go about it. And all the times before that, I felt like setting goals just makes me so anxious because when I don't achieve them, I become very I don't want to use the D word, but I become very sad or hard on myself for the fact that I didn't achieve the things that I wanted to achieve. But I still thought that it's important that we still figure out a way, like you mentioned on yours, we include Christ, not even include, but plan or set goals or intentions the way God wants for our lives, right? So how do we even begin to do that? Or from last year's, the way the year went, did you plan for things to happen that way?
Sure.
Or were they your goals, or did most of the stuff just come out of nowhere, or did you not have goals at all? How did last year look for you?
I think last year it was definitely a thing that because I have this thing that I've been doing since 2019, that every new year I spend praying into the new year. So how some people are like, New Year's party, yay, or whatever. I've been doing a thing that I would spend those few minutes going into the new year just praying. And then just really asking God, Lord, what's happening? Lord, I pray for your blessing over the year. Lord, how are we gonna do this? So for last year, I, especially near the end of the year when I do my self-reflection, I'm like, oh my goodness, how did the year go? And then this new thing that I'm, what I did since then is I would ask God for a word or a theme for the year per se. And when I get that, I'm like, okay, cool. We're first going to test it. We're first going to be is it according to His word? Is the scripture that aligns with what He told me? Can I be sure that it is from Him and not what I want for the year to be? And then I surrender that to Him. And I'm like, Lord, however this looks in your eyes, I trust you with it. So I do that. And then from then on, I'm like, okay, practical goals. What is it? Do I want to focus on personal stuff this year? Do I want to focus on career stuff this year? So for 2024, it was mainly career things, because I was like, Lord, I gotta make the bag. I gotta get a bag. The bag has to be made. And once again, just surrendering that with like to the Lord, and being able to dream with Him.
Sure.
Because I think like I'm a very big person on dreaming.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot happening in this big forehead of mine, and and yeah, I think that's a big thing. It's just when you have the dream, to set the goals towards it.
Sure.
And sometimes the best thing you can do is just do it. Instead of saying I'm gonna do it, you just have to do it. Yeah.
For me, it's a bit interesting, because I think in 2024 I did set goals, and again, I do think that there was some that I included Christ in, and there was some that I did not include God in, and I just wrote a list of the things that I wanted. And I think sometimes we have that tendency of just listing things like we're writing a Christmas wish list.
G-Wagon by the 4th of May.
Exactly. But I think I've been challenged to kind of figure out a way to make sure that I don't include God in my plans, but I jump on God's plans for me, and then set the goals. So I've been trying to think why we do certain things, especially in the faith. Like the biggest thing I've been asking myself is, why do we always do a prayer and fasting in the beginning of the year? Like different churches. Why is it that people do it? And I remember I was just asking God, what is the importance of it? Because I used to do it because everyone is doing it, and I believe in unity in the body of Christ. I think there's power in us being united.
100%.
But I think I didn't understand why, or why it could be useful.
Yeah.
And then I remembered, while I fasted in October, I think it was, or beginning of November, I can't remember. And I remember God reminding me that through prayer and fasting, there's a lot of clarity that happens, right? And right now, prayer and fasting is not, when you fast, it's not only just like you fasting from food and all of that, like things that are a distraction to you from being in the presence of the Lord, right? In that time, it's time where you intentionally spend time from God, and you intentionally want to hear from God, right? So while I was fasting, I was like, this is really cool. I want to do this again in December, sometime, where I do this in preparation for next year. And then during this time, I ask Christ what He wants to do through my life in 2025. So I think one of the most important things that I've realized is that if we want God to be part of the plan, I do think a good way to do that is just go through that prayer and fasting session. And I'm not saying it needs to be for 20 days or for 14 days or 21 days. It's something that you and God can discuss. But I do think that is one element that helps you make sure that God is agreeing, or God is the one that is directing your path, right? But why do you think it's hard for people to keep? And again, I said setting intentions, not resolutions, because I think resolutions are easy to be like, these are my New Year's resolutions, right? But when you're setting goals or setting intentions, it means you have to have a strategic way on applying those, or making moves for those goals to actually become successful. So why do you think we fail at achieving our goals?
I think sometimes it depends, like we set goals with the end in mind instead of the next step.
Oh, the
in
process.
Mind. Yeah. So definitely I can say 100% guilty of it, where I'm like, I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to do that by that time.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, Erin, tomorrow is going to come. The day after tomorrow is going to come. You need to set your intentions for like till you get to that point of where you actually like achieve the thing. So I think like why we can easily miss those things is because we get in this whole thing about I'm not being intentional about the smaller decisions. So I think that's a big thing that I've learned last year is I would be like, okay, by next week I'm gonna know all of my lines. And then next week comes around and I'm like,
know nothing.
Oop. Because it's not just a thing about knowing your lines per se. It's going through the emotional transitions to get into the mind of your character to like knock all of these things out of the park to understand where your storyline is going. So like in a different setup, it would be I'm studying for my exams coming up in, I don't know, a few months' time. And then exams, they come along and you're like, oh, wow, I don't know anything. I don't know anything.
Yeah.
Like, I only, like, and then you get in this thing that I'm very, girl, in high school, I would do this thing. It's quite bad now, where I would just study to pass my test, not to understand the concept.
Ooh.
So now, if someone had to ask me, yo,
Cramp
Erin,
pass forget.
what's the mitochondria? It's the powerhouse of the cell. That's all, that's all I can tell you. But anything else, I can be like, Tromi, I don't know. So I think when it comes to having a goal, you need to keep tomorrow in mind. You need to keep your next step in mind because you are walking towards your goal. You're not gonna levitate and be like, whoop, I'm there. Yeah. And for you, girl?
I agree with what you're saying, right? But again, I'm also like a solution-based person. So like for what you've said, and it's funny that you said exactly what I wanted to say, because I did write the solution to what you're saying. Like, we don't think about the everyday steps because when we have resolutions, we literally are saying what we want for at the end of 365 days.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, okay, but what are you doing every day towards that the 365th day? You know? So I always want to know what I can do. And it's something that my dad taught me. And he was like, I hear all these goals that you're coming up with, but what are you doing today to get closer to that, which is what you mentioned. But another thing that I was reminded of, I don't know if did you take business studies after grade 10?
Girl, I have half a year of grade 11. So I had business in grade 10 and like
Half of it.
half
but
of
I
grade
think
11.
you should know.
Yeah.
So I remembered something that we did in business studies. I hope you do too. But there was, I hope you do too.
Girl, me
The
too.
mitochondria situation. I hope it didn't apply in business studies. But I remembered there was a smart goals approach.
Oh,
And I was like,
see.
and sometimes we think that these things we can't link them to Christ or whatever. But like when I was prepping for this episode, I don't know, God just placed that in my heart and I was like, what is it again? And then I went to Google and it's a 5-step for
Like goal
5 steps,
plan.
goal setting steps. Ugh.
Okay, yeah.
Yo, English. Anyways, the S stands for specific, which means you make a specific goal and narrow for make your goal. Sorry, guys. I'm reading. Make your goal specific and narrow for more effective planning.
Sure.
And then the M stands for measurable, which is make sure your goal and progress are measurable. So you need to measure your progress each and every day. That hence why I think in your episode I mentioned how I am like an obsessive planner. I would plan the month and then I would plan the week and then I would plan. So like I'm not saying go to as much of detail as I
need
do.
to plan the next second.
Yes,
what am I going to do in the next
that,
second?
but I do think it's important to create those from the intentions that you've set for the year. You now set intentions for in 6 months and then from 6 months to 3 months, just like companies have those things where each quarter you need to check your progress on what you've done, how much closer are we to the target and stuff like that. So the A stands for achievable, and it says you need to make sure you can reasonably accomplish your goal within a certain time frame. So even the planning that you you do, you need to make sure that,
Yeah.
okay, cool, I want to achieve this, but is it possible for me to achieve it in 6 months realistically?
Sure.
And if it's not, then okay, let me push it to
Yeah.
8 months,
Yeah.
but make it more realistic, right? And then the R is relevant, which is one that I didn't understand before in grade 10.
What do you
What's
mean?
my business teacher's name? Miss Trubel. Sorry.
Oh my word.
Um,
Side tangent, like the my business teacher in grade 10, he literally
he would.
like he would like he was one of those kind of teachers that like you kind of like write what he reads.
Uh-huh.
So there would be a lot of times where I would just be like, I don't know what he
you're
said,
saying, but I'm gonna write it
but I'm
down.
writing. I'm writing. And then it's like, okay, did you guys get it? And I'm like, Tommy, I didn't get anything, but yeah, I guess. Yeah.
And then the R is your goal relevant, and your goal should align with your values and
Sure.
long-term objectives. And then T is for time-based, so set realistic but ambitious end date to clarify tasks, prioritization, and increase motivation. So I think
Sure.
there's so many things that I learned in business that I've realized that I can actually apply in my everyday life.
Yeah.
In terms of how I set goals and how do I ensure that those goals actually become successful. I think now I'm trying to be more equipped
Yeah.
for and intentional in the goals that I set, and not just list things and resolutions.
Sure.
And the other day you were asking me, no, was it the other day?
I ask you a lot of things.
Yeah.
I realize if there's one thing about Erin Patience, I'm gonna ask myself a question.
When was it? Last year, sorry, in November, we went to do the outreach situation.
Yeah.
Right. And then Erin was asking me, if you guys don't know, I'm a gym girly. Like, you're gonna catch me in the gym 6 out of 7 times a week. Like,
Oh, yeah,
I
I
love
remember that day.
being in the gym. But Erin was like, I want to start working out. Do you have any advice? And I was like, on what? Right. And then she told me her goals and what she wants to achieve.
Yeah.
And cool. And she asked me how many times a week I'm in the gym, and I was like 6 days a week, and I could tell she was like, oh my gosh,
Like, girl,
do
I
I need
was.
to be in the gym 6 days a week? And I remember saying, you know what, we need to be realistic.
Yeah.
Like, for someone who didn't work out before, for you to be in the gym 6 times a week is crazy insane.
No, man.
It's crazy insane.
5 hours, 6 times a week,
Exactly. Like,
all year round. Hour.
so I suggested, I think, which is something also that helps with getting closer to stepping towards achieving the goal, is not even baby steps, but taking small steps towards the big picture.
Sure.
Right? My dad always likes to say, how do you eat an elephant? And I'm like, who would be eating an elephant anyway? But then he's like, you eat an elephant one bite at a time.
Actually,
You can't eat the whole thing. Go
like
on.
I have a it's not like a joke, but in a radio drama,
Yeah.
my character, she like tells her parents, she's like, oh, do you guys want to hear a joke?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, what? And then she's like, how do you eat an elephant? Please, I'm gonna try not to butcher the pronunciation. I really hope. And then she's like, oh, kancane, kancane. And I'm like, oh my word. So yeah, when you said, I was like, oh wait, I know that.
Kancane. Girl. Oh, but I even forgot what I was saying.
Sorry.
So, we were talking about you gymming, and I was saying to Erin, you don't work out at all. So start with 3 days a week before you go to 6, and try and commit to 2 or 3 days a week. And as time goes on, you progress. And that's also how it works in the gym. Like, if you want to lift heavier, you don't go from not lifting at all to lifting
120K.
Like, that's not how it works. It's a whole process. So I think even in the way that we set our goals, we need to be realistic. But what kind of different
Sure.
what are the different areas in your life that you could set goals for
this year, for 2025? I think something that I really like really want to work on is, I think, humility.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because now, oh my days.
Yo.
So now, in like the way just like life is like going fast paced, we gotta do this, gotta do that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I am slowly like losing sight of the small things, and it's always the small things that give me so much joy. So for me, a personal goal for 2025 is humility.
Sure.
In like the small things. Being like, hey, I'm talking to my mom, just focusing on the conversation with my mom instead of being like, yeah, mom, I'm here, but my mind is 10 different other places. So I'm not sure whether the word humility is the right word, but definitely having, if I'm focusing on the one thing, this is the one thing I'm focusing on. Not trying to be like, yeah, V, I'm talking to you, but actually my mind is like on day 49 of whatnot. But to actually just also show that that intentional talking and that intentional communicating with the people in my life. And then work related, girl, we just move up. We are moving up. We are moving up. I'm doing like a praise step thing happening. And then
Look, is the camera catching this?
a little and then spiritually, I feel like the Lord has been calling me to be a bit more out there in regards to outreaches and just being a lot more like community driven and focusing on my front lines.
Sure.
So I want to get more involved in outreaches here at Radio Pulpit, and and then also at church we have like a lot of like partnering ministries for outreaches, and immediately I was like, put my name on that.
Sign me up, coach.
Yeah, sign me up. And so goals would be just growing and continuing to grow. And if I stumble, if I fall, to be like, dust it off, girl, we gotta go again.
And I think setting intentions or goals is supposed to be a self or personal growth or self-improvement thing.
Yeah, 100%.
It's about doing better in every space of your life. So if that's physically, if that's spiritually and mentally, if that's career wise, if that's even in your relationships, doing better. So I think that in whatever goals that we set, let us not just be linear and think career only, but think about how can we be better people, or how can we come I forgot the word, but how do we come better in our friendship groups, or as a daughter, or as a sister, or how do we become better in our workplaces? Or
But I think also things like we tend to forget that we as humans, we are like rounded people.
yeah.
I am not just my career. I am not just who I am to this person. I am not just my faults and my failures. I'm not just my achievements and my goals.
Yeah.
But I am like this all-encompassing person. And yes, the Lord is the one who sustains me. But as much as He is in my life, He's also a part of my life. That kind of makes sense. So we don't only operate like from His Spirit, but we operate because of His Spirit. So it's a thing about like when it comes to setting goals and being intentional in our goals, I need to be thinking about, hey, if I want to be a mom one day, if I want to be a wife one day, not saying like only work towards that, but what kind of mom do I want to be? What kind of wife do I want to be? How can I practice these small things right now? And not just like homemaking and being like, I'm the perfect house person, but being like, if I want a man who has good time management, let me have good time management.
Yeah, exactly.
So stuff like that. And I think just, faithfully serving in whichever space you're in also helps you to keep your feet on the ground as you're walking towards your goals.
Girl, as you're saying that, I remembered something that God was also telling me in this process when prepping. He was just reminding me how, as much as it is important for us to set goals, and as much as it's important for us to have these goals and actually be proactive in achieving them and spending time with Christ so that He can tell you what His goals for your life are in this year. He also told me to, which is something so profound, but He also said I should leave room for God to do what He wants whenever He wants. And He was like, I'm not going to always tell you everything at that time. So by the time that I'm fasting and praying for God to give me wisdom on what are the plans for this year, it's possible that God will only reveal to me what He thinks I'm ready to hear at that time. So just because there's certain things that He says should be in my plans for the year, it doesn't mean that that is all that He has for me in that year. I need to be open to, in June, God can say, okay, this is what I'm offering you, and I need you to move now. And I need to be willing to do that. So
that obedience to Him.
Yes, absolutely. And that also links to just trusting God no matter what. So even in the midst of you being intentional in your goals and every day taking steps towards the end goal, just trusting God is very important, and being obedient, because we don't know what we're doing. We can try and set goals, guys, but like realistically, or not even realistically, at the end of the day, God is in control. Right?
Amen.
So I think allowing Him to move when He wants to move, and if He wants to drastically change my life, then
you go.
It might take a minute for me to accept that He wants to drastically change my life, but I need to be open to that idea. But also what it reminded me of is, where was it? James. Sorry, I want to read it.
She brought out the Bible.
I'm trying.
Exactly.
James 4 verse 3, I think. Which I think you mentioned this earlier. It's linked to that. But it says, and even when you ask, you do not get it because your motives are all wrong. You want only what will give you pleasure. Guys, it's funny because I went on TikTok and I saw someone speaking about this verse, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna have to add that to my notes. And then I had to go and read on my own. But I just wanted us to remember, as we're closing off, just to remember James 4 verse 3, that even in our goal setting, we must. That's why I've been highlighting the importance of hearing what God wants for your life in this year, because sometimes we want things selfishly, and we do not get because we want them for the wrong reasons. So whatever plans that we may have, may they align with God, but also realize that even our plans should include other people. I like the fact that you also mentioned how you also want to be better and want to be plugged in and do some outreaches. And that's also something that God has been challenging me about. I think we spoke about it too last year, that we've both been feeling challenged to do more outreaches. And because life is beyond us, man.
Girl.
Like it's
it really
even
is.
when we went to our outreach, I think it's the first time I think I've been to an outreach. I think I went to an outreach when I was a kid, but it was like the whole church was doing something. But as an adult, that was my first time, and everything was put into perspective for me when we went and saw the kids. And it was like, I remember saying it to you and everyone in the car. I was like, we always like want to think about the things that we want. What's the next phone we have? What's the next laptop we want to get? Or what's the next house we're going to get? Like, but there's so much that other people don't have. And the basic stuff,
And I think that's something I told my friend, because I was like, we went on the outreach, and then being like, Erin, your struggles and the things you're going through, they are very real to you.
Yeah, they're valid.
Like they're valid and they're very real to me. But then also always being reminded that everyone has problems. Like, not even like when Christ was on earth, he wasn't kept away from problems, from people betraying him, from from people betraying him, from troubles and stuff like that. But still he endured.
Sure.
So I think that's a big thing, is how to lead in love,
Yeah.
but also to be like, your problems are valid, but man, when I tell you there's a God out there, there is the God, Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah El Shaddai, Jehovah Adonai, who will, like,
I thought you were going down the list. Go on, girl.
oh, okay.
Go on. No, continue.
like who loves you beyond words, and like he has a plan for you.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be like, as long as you follow the plan, but as long as you see him, as long as you're breathing, he's with you.
Sure.
And even beyond this life,
Yeah.
he's with you.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my ending comments, girl.
Girl, let me make sure. But I think we've said everything that we wanted to say. I just want to say, while you're setting goals for yourself, ask God what his plans are.
Sure.
You know, there's different areas of your life you can set goals. Again, I've said with your relationships, with finances, you can set goals. With career goals, you can set career goals. So there's different ways that you can set your goals. But for example, Erin said that last year for her the important thing was career.
Yeah.
So for me last year, only God knows, I can't even remember. But we're moving forward, and I think in the next year there will be a lot that God will be doing in my life, and I'm very grateful and optimistic, and I'm just willing to trust him for his plans at the end of the day. But thank you for coming again and again.
Thank you for inviting me to 2025 January.
Thanks for joining me. It's always a pleasure, and I know I'm gonna have you soon, probably next month, but who knows?
Who knows?
And we're gonna have a very interesting conversation. I have a good conversation for us to talk about.
But also, like, you guys can catch us like doing the live shows.
Yeah.
Every first and every third Friday of the month.
We never mention it actually on here. We always mention on air that we have podcast episodes, but we never mention on the podcast that we go on air.
Yeah.
So y'all need to catch us there. Also, this year, can we be more proactive and interactive and talk in the comment section? Let us know what you think, what God has been speaking to you about. We might even be responding from our personal accounts instead of the company's accounts, because I've seen you comment using your your own account, and I will be doing the same. So let's have that conversation, and let's go with each other and from each other.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that.
But thank you guys for watching. Like, share, subscribe. And if you're not subscribed, you're rude. Thanks, Kalita. I'ma always remember her with that line. If you're not subscribed, you're rude. But I'll catch y'all in the next one. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.